Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Thank you guys for joining me again for tonight's awesome dialogue. Today is Wednesday, January 27th, 2021, and welcome to this week's edition of Dialogues with Doc. For those of you who join me every week, I thank you guys so much for joining. For those of you who are new, thank you for joining and hanging out with us on tonight. For those who don't know, Dialogues with Doc was something that was birthed out of COVID. And so I wanted to just provide a safe space for individuals to chime in and just talk about a host of different topics each and every week. So tonight is going to be like none other. I have some amazing guests joining me. I have some amazing guests who are going to be offering a lot of insight and a lot of information on tonight's topic. So I'm very, very, very excited to have them joining me on tonight. Of course, you guys know how I do it each and every week. I have a couple of housekeeping rules. So before we get tonight started, here are the housekeeping rules. If you're watching, like the video. That's simple. If you're watching, like the video for me. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can like it there. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're watching the video, hit that share button for me as well and just share this information. Someone may need this information later on, so they may not be watching it right now, but they're always welcome to go back and watch the show on YouTube or on the Facebook channel at a later date to get this great information. Of course, the next order of business each and every week, where are you watching from? If you're watching in the chat, in the comments, let me know. I saw my girl Tasha Clay repping for me from the Dallas area watching on tonight. Hey, Tasha, good to see you. Miss Denise, how are you? Good to see you. Dana, are you back from Puerto Rico? If so, welcome back. If not, thank you for taking time on your vacation to chime in. I love you. I love you. I love you. I appreciate you. But if you're watching tonight, go ahead and let me know where you are watching from. I would love to shout you out. Dallas is in the building. Dallas is definitely in the building. If you're watching, please let me know you're watching. I have some amazing guests coming on tonight. So I thank you for coming on to support me and to support them as well. You don't have to support us, but we're thankful that you do. So thank you for taking the time out to join us and get this great information. My daughter says she's at work. I'm praying for you right now. That cussing spirit does not come over you. So if you're at work, stay in the right headspace so you don't hurt nobody, Trachea. Tasha's in Cedar Hill. Dana is back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So here we go. Tonight, listen. Tonight's topic is something that's very special to me. When I was coming up with the topic for this week, I wanted to, somebody else chimed in. Philly is definitely in the house, Dana. I see you. Philly's definitely in the house. Philly's got my back. Philly and Dallas. Oh, and the DMV, where I'm at right now. For those who don't know what the DMV is, I'm not talking about the Department of Motor Vehicles. It's DC, Maryland, and Virginia. The DMV is where I reside. I'm Dallas raised, but I'm DMV paid. That's how it rolls over on this side of town. But yeah, tonight's show. When I came up with tonight's topic, I wanted to, as an educator, my heart goes out each and every week to the scholars that I work with. The scholars that I work with definitely are some individuals who have some amazing stories. However, some of them have had a lot of struggles as it relates to them moving on the upward way of their educational trajectory. So tonight's show is basically about supporting special populations in schools. So when I came up with this topic of supporting special populations in schools, I wanted to have some individuals join me who have been doing some amazing work. I call them my trench workers like myself. We work in the trenches. We get all of the, let me say this the nice way. We get all the attitudes. We get all of the, man, you throwing me off. We get all of the words that they use so freely and interchangeably because they're frustrated. We get the problems that some people don't want to deal with. However, we are some individuals who have been graced for this work. And I say graced because it takes a lot of patience, a lot of persistence, a lot of time of your own, a lot of, this is the reason why I don't carry cash to work anymore. I don't carry cash, so a lot of money. Sometimes, hey, you got $1, hey, you got 50 cents, that kind of stuff. So they know when they come to Green ain't got no money. I'm cashless, and then I have one tell me what cash at me. I'm not doing that either. So yeah, those type of conversations. So yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. Tonight's show is sponsored by me. So I'm just getting ready because I'm doing some great things this year on Dialogues with Doc, and I'm just speaking some things into existence. So tonight's show is sponsored by me. Tonight's show is sponsored by me. Tonight's show is sponsored by me. They say when you speak things over and over, you speak them into existence. So, one day I'm going to say this show is sponsored by somebody besides me. So I'm practicing right now. So when I do get those sponsors, so if you know anybody that want to sponsor, wants publicity, wants to advertise on Dialogues with Doc, send your boy email, drcalvin.green@gmail.com. I greatly appreciate it. I'm just throwing it out there. We're going to do some great things this year. But yeah, I want to be able to say one day this show is sponsored by Google or Oprah Winfrey, the OWN network, somebody, So yeah, we're working in that vein. All right, Calvin, back on your script. Okay, I'm back. Now, the individuals tonight are some individuals that I say are in the trenches with myself because we work with these special populations each and every day. We are some individuals who, Jason, brother, I don't have a choice. I gotta speak it, man. Tasha, okay. Tasha, contact me. I can offer. Yeah, okay. February is my birthday month too, so yeah, we gonna speak this thing. Dialogues with Doc, sponsored by somebody besides me in the future. It's coming. I'm speaking it now so I can receive it. Okay, back to what we're talking about, Calvin. Okay, these special populations, like I said, are the scholars who we work with every day. Some of them we throw them off. I just ask you to put your tie on. I just ask you to tuck your shirt. I just ask you where your hall pass is. I just ask you not to carry Miss So and So in the cafeteria like that because you might be in her face tomorrow saying, "Can I have some extra syrup for my pancake?" We're the people that redirect with love. We're the people that try to help the best way that we can with these scholars. So these special populations that I'm talking about on tonight, I didn't want to say special education. I call them special population students because they are a population within our population of students that we have to go above and beyond each and every day that we serve. So I invited some amazing people on the show with me tonight to help me talk about this thing. And when I was coming up with the concept, I didn't just want teachers. I wanted individuals from different avenues and different areas within the building. So I got some amazing guests with me tonight who are going to join me. I've known them collectively. Dang, Tiff is about 15, Tom's about 5, Wells about 5, Rodney about. We got some knowledge on the line tonight, so I can't do this by myself. I got some amazing people here to help me. But of course, this is Dialogues with Doc, so that I can't bring people on Dialogues with Doc without bringing them on the right way. So if you guys would give me a second to get I'm a one-man show, to get myself together on this end, I can only bring them on one way. So the Dialogues with Doc way is like this. Good evening, y'all.
Good evening. We applaud you too, Doc.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you guys so much for joining me on tonight. Give me 1 second to clear. Okay, now I'm good. I got my screen good. I'm good. Tiff, Thomas, Doc, and Rodney. Thank you for joining me on tonight for Dialogues with Doc. But before I get started, how is everybody doing? How you feeling? I know it's Wednesday. We're almost there. And we're gonna see this week out. So Tiff, how you feeling? Then Thomas, Rodney, and then Doc.
I am feeling good. I'm just happy that it's Wednesday. Hey, we got 2 more days. Until happy Friday, and we on to the weekend. So
Thomas, how you feeling, brother?
I am great. I'm excited to sit on this dynamic panel. I know we are going to be in for a treat tonight. So thank you for thinking about me, and I'm ready to get this show on the road with you, brother. Thank you for doing what you're doing, brother.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Rodney, how you feeling, man?
Well, hey everyone, I'm feeling all right, man. I'm feeling refreshed. I'm ready. Thank you for this amazing opportunity, bringing us all together. I really appreciate it, sir. Proud of you. Keep up the good work.
Yes,
man.
I
Thank
love all this
you.
Black greatness here.
It's in the room. It's in the room. Dr. Wells, my friend, who I didn't get to see
Hi.
today.
Hi, Dr. Green. How are you? Hi to
I'm
amazing
great.
panelists. I am so excited for tonight. Today, I feel rested. I can honestly say I feel rested.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna be able to say that probably Saturday.
Saturday, yes, Saturday.
So listen. I want to start this thing off right. I was supposed to ask for bios about what you do currently, and Thomas sent me a text message today, and I totally forgot about it. My frat brother was getting me together before the show, so
That's
I dropped the
brotherhood.
ball. That's brotherhood. That's brotherhood. So I missed the ball, but I'm gonna just start out with tonight's question with. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you do. So we're talking about special populations that we support. So each of us tonight are coming from different areas with supporting these scholars. So tell us about it is what do you do with these scholars? So I'm gonna start with Rodney because I'm just man, just tell us what it is that you do, man.
Yeah, so thank you. So I'm an elementary principal, K5, and John Moffitt Elementary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is my second year at John Moffitt, and I'm telling you guys, we're doing some amazing work. And especially when we talk about special population, we have high standards, making sure that they succeed just as well as our general ed population, and ensuring that they are transferring back into general education. So we're doing work over here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Tiff, tell us about what you do.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I am a lead special education specialist at a elementary campus. Shout out to Pleasant Run Elementary. Okay, I lead. I lead over the teachers as well as our special populations that we have their programs. We have a couple of different units there. One of those units is we call it our ABC unit, which is our adaptive behavior classroom, which is for our K through second graders. And we have one that is BAC. And BAC is our behavior adjustment classroom for our third through fifth graders. And we also have a transition unit, which is for our various different learners. Someone may be a fifth grader who's on a first grade level. It just depends. And then, of course, we have our inclusion and content mastery that we have. So we have all of those at Pleasant Run Elementary, and we rock.
Pleasant Run keeping you busy.
Yes, hey, we rock it. That's what it is. That's how we roll.
Listen. I used to live on Pleasant Run, so I know exactly where your school is. Let's go, Thomas. I know you do a lot of things, which we're going to get to. Well, I saved you and Dr. Wells for last because y'all do a lot of stuff outside of the stuff that you do as well. So, Thomas, tell us what you do on your day job.
What I do about day job, I work. No, all jokes aside, it is an honor again, Calvin. Thank you so much for the invitation. What I do on my full-time job is I am a dean of students for a charter school in Washington, D.C. called KIP DC. I am the high school dean. Shout out to my class of 2021 graduates. We are excited with what we are doing in this virtual land. And I support special education students, and I love what I do on all my jobs.
I love it. I love it. Dr. Wells.
So, in short, my job in the daytime, I save lives. So I'm a school psychologist. I do psychological assessments. I work with parents and students with disabilities, and I advocate for them. So I make sure that they know their rights as a parent, as a student, and then what our responsibility is to them under that umbrella of special education. In the evening, I have the beautiful job of working with children for autism as a registered behavior technician because I want to be a board certified behavior analysis. It's coming in May. So I do that in the evening, and it is a delight for me.
Now, Dr. Wells, I don't want to thank you for coming back because people don't. You have people on one time, and they get so big that you gotta. Can I ask her to come back? So I asked you to come back, but I'm noticing one thing. since the last time I had you on, you got some more letters behind your name.
I did. So I am a registered behavior technician. That will go away once I get all of my hours for my BCBA, which is Board Certified Behavior Analysis. So yes, I had to get a certification to work with children with autism.
Gotcha. So welcome. I thank you guys for joining me tonight, and y'all ready to get to it?
Yes.
So I'm just gonna throw some questions out, and then there's no particular order. I may just lead in with a question directed at someone, and then if someone wants to chime in as well, that's how we'll operate tonight. Okay.
Okay.
So let's start with our first question. Brother Thomas, what do you think is the biggest misconception about scholars in special populations? Like, what do you think is the biggest misconception about these scholars that we serve? And then anybody can jump in right behind you.
I appreciate the question. And I think the biggest misconception is that we sometimes, and when I mean by we, the school systems and the districts and the powers that be, say that these students cannot maintain themselves in a mainstream inclusion classroom. That is the biggest misconception that I think that's out there. And also, we also say a lot when a student are having some needs, we also like to say, oh, they can't learn, which is what they just stated, or they need medication, or something is going to be on you for the rest of your life. And that is so not true. That is not true at all.
Yeah.
I love what you said about the medication. I'm sorry, Wells, about the medication, because sometimes we need the medication. But go ahead.
Hey.
I want to add that we have to break the narrative that special education is not the catch-all for behaviors, and that is the misconception that, oh, I stick you in special education because you can't learn or that there's a disability. Right. Special education means specialized instruction for that scholar. It is not any different from a kid sitting in the classroom getting the same instruction. It means that I specialize or I tailor or I give specific supports in that classroom. And so it's very disheartening when we think that, oh, there's a label, or you're special education, or you can't learn. There are disabilities under the umbrella where I have a medical disability that allows me to get special education. I may miss school. I may need help with getting to school. So I think we have to understand, like, when we say special education, understanding that special education means that we're tailoring the education so that they have access to it.
Yes. And I agree and piggyback on both of y'all, just the misconception of if a child is identified, then they need to be in a special ed classroom. I don't agree with that, because there are different ways that you are identified under special education umbrella that does not allow you to have to be in a self-contained classroom with those type of peers. So, back in the day when I was in school and it was called CMC. Only thing that we knew was when they came back to class, they had all the answers. But other than that, we wasn't, privy to understanding or knowing what was going on at that time. So I just think that's a big misconception, saying that they need special education classroom setting where they are self-contained up in there all day.
I love that.
I also want to add, though, I think that sometimes we focus on the deficit of the kids as they come in, opposed to focusing on the asset of the kids, right? So let me find out what those kids do well and give them those tools to apply so they won't be in special population.
Right.
So, I think we have to just change the narrative. Yes. Let's focus on the deficit of the students. Let's focus on what they do well to support them.
I love that.
I don't know if y'all experience this, and it's a little sidebar, but do y'all experience teachers that don't believe or feel like that there's a disability? And I'm like, you have to
all the time
modify the assignment. You are legally bound to modify the assignment the way that it states on their individualized education plan.
That's right. On that IEP, that is a legal binding document. So that document that you sign after sitting in that meeting lets you know that you understand what you are supposed to do for that student individually, because that's their individual education plan. That's their plan.
Ladies, can y'all say that again? Individualized, not a classroom IEP with the same goals. One.
Right.
Uno. One.
That's right. That's right.
I love it. I love it.
So we have to also teach teachers though, because what I'm finding out is that sometimes teachers just not equipped,
right,
to know how to provide that individualized instruction. Like they don't have those resources. They've been thrown so much at them.
right.
Keep up, and they're just trying to survive. So I think that we have to resort and find a way. So like, how do we teach them?
Well, that, and we're teaching them as well. That comes for them to venture out as well to get that additional resources and supports, and also to ask.
Advocate.
I'm a firm believer of you reaching out, trying to understand what you need to get done instead of someone always telling you what you need to do. So, of course, we have our instructional coaches, and we have our different realms that everybody is supporting one another. So if there's an issue or something that you don't understand, then yes, you need to ask. And no question in regards to special education is a dumb question. So therefore, you need to be able to reach out and say, hey, I think this might be looking a little different, or I didn't understand when we was in this R meeting. Can you explain what it is? Because I need you to understand that you signed a legal binding document for a student.
Yeah.
Right.
And y'all get out my notes over here. Y'all there with the IEP. I'm gonna just go ahead and drop this question sooner than later. Can you describe the depth and the impact of an IEP? So we talked about it's an individualized education plan. It's not a classroom education plan. It's individualized for Calvin. Individualized.
I'm gonna start.
Yes. Okay, come on. You can
start. Let me start. And Dr. Green, you can speak to this because in our district, we have a SSST coordinator that states that you have went through a series of interventions that state that you are still not accessing the generalized curriculum, meaning that you are still falling grade levels behind. And I can come to a teacher and she can provide me with data, work samples, and documentation that she or he has tried something. So then you make the referral for them to be tested by the school psychologist. You say, I think it's reading, I think it's math, it may be behavioral, ADHD. What I have to do is then create a battery of tests that will prove or disprove whatever that referral question was. And based off that, I get a set of scores that state that your child is performing 2 to 3 grade levels behind in reading, in math, or that they have a mental health disability that severely impacts them accessing the generalized curriculum. And then they're found eligible. But eligibility means that there is nothing else that could have cause that discrepancy in learning. And then I have to create the teachers and I create a individualized education plan for that student based off their scores. Correct. That means in the area of reading, math, written language, social, emotional, it could be speech, it could be occupational therapy, it could be physical therapy, but there are over like 8 or 10 team members on the individualized education plan for a student. And I can let you guys chime in on that individualized level of reading and how y'all implement that in school, because I just tell you that this is what happened. I don't know how it's held accountable in the classroom.
No, I think.
Go ahead.
No, I think absolutely.
Okay. So just the in-depthness of an IEP. So individualized education plan. So, you have your parents' input. After you have your parents' input, it's derived of all these different components where you have to create the PLAF. So many might not know: present levels, academic achievement, functional performance. Okay. So then you have the annual goals and your objectives and your standards and things that you have to hone in on to know what this particular child needs. Because just because I'm saying that Tiffany needs clarification of rewording vocabulary words does not mean that Dr. Calvin needs clarification. So therefore, this plan is individualized for that student. It's not a puzzle to where it fits for everybody. So you just have to go in depth. And because I'm at elementary level, we're not really big on the transition piece, because by the time you're transition, then they're getting into their middle school and high school to where they're trying to figure out what they're going to do when it's time for them to get ready to graduate and things of that nature. But it is a start, because we do have to ask the parents, what do we expect for them to think that their child is going to be able to do once they leave elementary school anyway. So it's just an in-depth derived information of that particular student that just has everything that Dr. Wells do first, and then come back for us to all come together for this IEP for this one student.
And if I may add this information in, and this is great discussions. So outside of my full-time job, what I do is, I am a licensed professional counselor. And one of the things that we are taught that we do with our clients is that we go over information and documentation first before we start pushing assessments to our parents. And so I'm bringing that point up to say, when I meet with my clients outside of my full-time job, I do a verbal informed consent. An in-depth IEP should entail, instead of me saying to a parent who we know may have some challenges with reading and understanding and cognitions and making a understanding, do you know what it means sometimes, always, and never?
Exactly.
Not when you pissed off because Billy won't sit down, because that's always. So we got to do a better job of educating our parents on what it means to do these surveys and these rating scales, because sometimes we are diagnosing and putting accommodations in when it has nothing to do with their academic at all. It's more of that social, emotional piece. I'm sorry, but I just had to jump in.
Go ahead, Rodney.
I think also, though, I think that from a leader standpoint, I think what I see is the disconnect when it comes to these IEPs and the teachers, is that sometimes the dismantle that teachers don't own that IEP. They don't believe that those kids can thrive. So they don't take that ownership. So they see it as those kids, or they see it as these other people. They see it as the special ed is the one that's going to fix the problem. So until you do that work and bring in those general ed teachers and say, you have that ownership of those kids, just like the special ed too, and it's a teamwork, we're never going to get the problem solved when it comes to our special population.
Mm-hmm. I want to touch on something that you said too about going over those rating scales. I have a personal story, and it was a learning lesson for me, because I switched populations. So I did my internship in Arlington public schools, but then I came to DC public charter schools. And so that demographic was just different. And so I would send my demographic information home because I didn't have time to send it home, do the information. So I would send it and then do a follow-up. But oftentimes I would never get the rating scales back. And I had a parent to come to me and pull me to the side and say, I cannot read. That blew my mind, because I didn't understand. I just didn't you didn't read as an adult. And so that was that humbled me. And that was a learning lesson, because we are thinking, this goes to the virtual learning platform. You are thinking that there's a parent at home to support that kid, and that kid doesn't have that type of support. That kid doesn't have that parent to understand that material the way that they do. And so kids are having challenges on this virtual learning platform that they didn't sign up for it, but also the level of support that teachers provide in a classroom is immeasurable. They provide above and beyond.
Yeah, and I want to jump back. This is a question I gave you guys, but this conversation is leading me in that direction. What are you doing when you've done the work and you have a parent who I'm conveying to you that your child has a need for an IEP or to be tested for special education services, and that parent is refusing to understand the lens you're coming from? I don't want my child to have it as a crutch, or I don't want my child to be in smaller classrooms. How do you handle and navigate those type of conversations when this is the best thing for your child, actually, but I'm like Dr. Wells is saying, the parent can't read, or the parent doesn't understand the grasp and the depth or the importance of an individualized education plan?
So may I jump in right quick and answer this? It starts from day one, right? When our scholars walk into our Zoom room, since we in the virtual land, it starts with day one. When you have your students, our students, and we need to, and Jason said something earlier that I wrote a circle by. We have to stop saying those kids, because they are not those kids. They are our kids. Right. They are our kids. When they walk into our room, they are our kids. These are our parents. So it starts with the mindset. So once a kid is saying, or a parent is saying, I don't want my child being labeled that way, it's the relationship piece that is missing.
Yeah.
Because if we take ourselves and put ourselves in their situation, we don't want to be judged. We don't want no one saying that my child is something's wrong with them. It starts with the relationship piece. Sorry for jumping in, ladies.
And no, but you took those words right out of my mouth. It starts with the relationship. You have to build a relationship and rapport with that parent and that student to know. That's when you know their demographics, their background. You know where they come from. You know how to reach that parent. You know all of these different things about this student. In that way, you have a building platform on how you're able to communicate that to the parent. I've been in the same situation with you, Dr. Wells, where a parent was not aware of what was going on, just signing stuff because she is depending on the school to make sure that that's what her child is actually needing. But in actuality, that was not what he was needing because he had a behavior issue, but he was smart as a whip. So at the end of the day, then you have to be knowledgeable as the teacher, as well as building that relationship and that gap so you can understand where this child and this parent is coming from at that time. And of course, they don't like labels. I don't want my child to be in special education and this, but I always try to make them understand that because they're under special education, it's the support that you're getting. It's the support. It's what we're trying to provide that's extra in addition to what they are already receiving, but just for them, tailored to them. So I just think it's with you, Thomas, I'm with you on that building relationships. That's a big component.
Yeah, because
and I just threw the question up there since y'all are already there. So go ahead.
I think that most parents also have had a negative experience when they were in school. So I think sometimes they already come in with that to the table. So now I'm coming with somebody on tell me back when I am, now you want to put this label on my kids? I'm not trying to hear that right now.
Right.
Yeah, like that, as you go like Thomas and you guys were saying, building those relationships is very important because that's the only way we're going to reach the parents, because we can't do this work in isolation.
Right.
It's a relationship between the parent and the school. We got to come together. We got to trust you. You got to trust us to ensure that we're going to do what it takes to ensure the school is going to succeed.
And just communication, just keeping that lines of communication open. You have to keep the lines of communication open. And of course, Doc, I was listening to you before you let us come on, and you were just like, hey, how can I say this to where what we deal with on a daily basis? Because it is very frustrating sometimes for some parents because they are not understanding what their child is actually dealing with because it's so much heavily placed on the school district to make sure that they take care of it if the parent is not aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love everything you guys are saying is right. And it's that communication piece. And I hate to say it, I was telling a coworker earlier today, we have to go back to the way our parents got communicated to, meaning an email doesn't suffice. Pick up the phone and call somebody.
Yes.
A parent's first line of interaction shouldn't be from one of us. I've received that so many times this year. Why hasn't the teacher called me? Why are you calling me? I haven't heard from his English teacher, his math teacher, the person that's failing my child. Oh, but they sent me an email. An email is so informal. Pick up the phone like they used to do back in the day when we were in school. They would come to your house or call your mama or wait for your mother to pick you up at the little circle when they drive up after school to get you. You have to get back to the basics in order to get that buy-in. For that parent to see you, that you reached out to them, that shows the parent that you actually do care about my child. I can't confide in you when something isn't right at home, or when Johnny isn't performing his best, or when Johnny just needs some extra support or an extra set of eyes on him because he probably did eat last night, or he probably is living from pillar to post, so we never know what that kid is going through. I want to go back to Tasha. Tasha put a comment a question in the chat, and I want to try to address it. She says, how are you encouraging teachers at the secondary level to stay abreast of the needs of individualized I think she meant student, but she put needs here. But if anybody can chime in, and it could be it may be something as simple as something you do at the elementary level that can carry over to secondary if we don't have a response to that.
So I'm having challenges with that because one thing that we miss is that we have special education teachers for content and not electives. And so content means they are certified in the area to get to specialize their education plan. So they have a math degree, or they are able to do reading, written expression. However, I don't know how to tell a special education teacher to modify robotics work, or I don't know how to tell a special education teacher to modify Spanish. And we have that challenge within our district that, you know, our specialized populations are doing the best that they can in their classes, but then I have to also perform at the high school level. I need a certain amount of electives, and our electives are rigorous. And so I encourage the elective teachers, or special teachers as we call them, to co-collaborate or co-plan with special education teachers, or co-plan with general education veteran teachers who are very good with working with those specialized populations, because it is still your right and responsibility as a music teacher, as a drama teacher, to modify that education plan. Yeah. And if you are found at fault, that's the other part too, is that you can be, you know, sued. So I kind of lead with that, like, you are
when those due processes come along. That's when those due processes come along.
You have to understand that you are still liable to still reach this scholar at their individualized level.
Right. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we were talking about, for those of you who are just joining us, we're having a great conversation about supporting special population scholars. And I want to jump in for someone who may have just joined in, who may not know. Dr. Wells, I know you know it like the back of your hand. There are different categories to this thing. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Wells, check me, it's 13, right?
Yes, 13 disability categories. Yes,
it is.
13.
And there are so many ways that we can better support these scholars. So for someone who's watching tonight that may have just clicked on this link and because someone shared it, who may not know, can we just talk about those categories for a second? You guys mind, for somebody who may not know?
No, so yeah, we definitely need to talk about those. So there are 13 categories. And so I'll start at the beginning. So if you are having a child that is experiencing a developmental delay, which is one of the categories. So they're not walking, talking, they're just having delays in their development, meeting developmental milestones. So a key part of my background information is, did your child walk and talk on time? Did they make full sentences by their developmental markers? And so if you have a child that is in DC under the age of 9, they carry the developmental delay disability category. And that means that you were identified early under special education.
Wow, you said under 9?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, they can stay to 9 because boys' development are 8. So boys still have speech issues at 8. So like R's and TH. So they try to do developmental delay up until boys in general acquire enough language. And so people don't know that you can be identified with special education for speech.
Speech and language. Speech and language.
Yep, that's another category. We also have specific learning disabilities, which a large umbrella of our students are serviced under. So they have a specific learning disability in reading, math, or written expression. And so one thing that I think that we have to get better at as a district is identifying what type of specific learning disabilities that students have, because I've tested kids who come to our district and they were identified wrong because you can be intellectually disabled and you were labeled under specific learning disability, but your scores suggested when you were initially tested that you had an intellectual disability, but the psychologist couldn't have that conversation with the parent. But you are the expert in your field and you need to advocate for that child because you do more detriment to the child to let them matriculate up into high school with the wrong label. And so it's we have multiple disabilities. So you can have a specific learning disability and OHI, which is other health impairment, which means that a child under that umbrella has multiple disabilities. So I may have a specific learning disability, that is my primary, but I may also have diabetes, which was the other health impairment, which I may miss school, or I may have to go to multiple doctors, or I may have cancer. I can get service under other health impairment because I miss a lot of school, and that impacts. And so for every 1 day that a child misses out of school, it takes them 3 days to remediate and make up the work. So when we think about our special population students, it takes them 6 times that to catch back up into the curriculum. And so
and also, Dr. Wells, while you're talking about that OHI, go ahead and let them know that's for parents too who have those children with that ADHD that falls under there as well.
Mm-hmm. And so you need to know, like in our district, we do not over-identify, but I will give you a 30-page report. I just did a 30-page neuropsych assessment to make sure that we were servicing this child correctly and that we could provide the services. You also have a TBI. So if you are if you have a scholar that suffered a traumatic brain injury by accident or some type of force, they can get services under special education. You have an orthopedic impairment, which means that their bodies lacks their functions such as cerebral palsy. You have deaf and blindness, so kids who have vision, and also hearing impairment is another one, and deafness, visual impairment, and then emotional disturbance is one that it's a category that it's clustered. I'm hoping that as we grow, that under emotional disturbance, that we will start to have a label or a check down box on the eligibility form, so I can specify: is it anxiety? Is it depression? Is it
aggression? Yes.
Like labeling what that childhood disability disorder is, and then the last one is autism. So you can have a child with ASD as a neurodevelopmental disorder. And so those are the things that a child is labeled under with the Individuals with Disability Act.
Yeah. Now, Tiffany, Thomas, and Rodney, have you encountered have you encountered a scholar who was labeled as OHI when you met him, but after working with it, you said, no, this child is misdiagnosed. He's probably ED.
Yes, of course, all the time, because sometimes, when you have to take it back to when they get their first evaluation, you don't get another evaluation where you're not due for another 3 years. Yeah. But of course, you're having your annual meeting. So it's very important to have all of that information over the course of the year so that you can come back and report and say, hey, this is what's going on at this moment in time. I think this child needs to be tested for, he's having some emotional issues, so maybe he needs to be tested to see, or he having a behavior issue. Maybe we need to do a functional behavior analysis or something like that, because it just depends. You could be in the first grade when you have an IEP in the first grade, and you're not due for another one until you in the tested grade area by this time. So things have changed from that point in time. So yes, of course, you always have that.
I just want to say that you all going to hear me say this a lot. It goes back to this one word: relationships. I can give a perfect example. There was a student, and when I first started working in education, that was identified as being ID. That's the new word. Back in the day, it was called autism. But mental retardation. Yes, MR. Right. MR. But because of the behaviors, they placed him in a emotional, disturbed, self-contained classroom. Yeah. Was not even focusing on helping him develop the cognition. So yes, Dr. Green, I have experienced this, and it's.
And while we're talking about all of these, and with Dr. Wells telling us the 13 categories and letting us know what it is, and we're throwing out these acronyms, it is so important to break it down to these parents. I can tell you that a child has a TBI, and that's why I take it back to who's ever evaluating. Please be upfront with them and let them know, okay, ma'am, yes, your child is ID. Okay. You're telling them ID, tell them they have an intellectual disability. Yeah. So that way, when we get into these meetings, they're not asking, well, she didn't tell me that. What is that?
Yeah.
Well, you said that, so just being open and letting them know, of course, with us being in education and working in the realms, then we have acronyms for days, So again, just like Mr. Harris down there said, get rid of the jargon. Yes, you have all of these acronyms for everything. But as a parent, if I was that parent who was not aware, I wouldn't know that you're sitting in a meeting talking about, okay, we're talking about a child who has a TBI. He also qualifies in OHI, and it's just all the way. It's just important to keep that line of communication open, as well as letting them know that this is what is going on with your child and what we're going to do as a team to build this plan for them.
That's the missing link, I believe. The parents forget they are part of this team. Like, it's not just us having a meeting to tell you what this report says. No, you're a part of this team as well. Like, we need your input. We need your buy-in. We need you to let's get rid of the jargon. Let's get you to really understand the needs of your child. And this is a plan we're creating to better support your child and you, because when your child is successful, so are you, and so are we as a team.
Yeah.
I think too, what you're saying is very valid. Is that, and it also goes back to my role in roles of school psychologists. Is that you have to test the child to thoroughly answer the referral question, and you also have to make sure that when you're sending those rating scales home, you're prepping that parent for whatever your outcome of that disability is. And so, if I'm suspecting ID and the teacher is telling me that they're not grasping the concept. They're not understanding social information. They don't have friends, like they don't have those interpersonal relationships.
They can't retain anything.
Yes, not retaining retention, but I am going to prime that parent and say, hey, I'm suspecting this, I'm seeing this. Here's what an adaptive rating scale looks like. It means what can they do adaptively at home. Here's the behavior rating scale. So you have to do that with the parent. And I've one thing that I've done now is that I ask them, how would you like for me to support you? But we give them their educational rights. And I really, my school does a really good job at, here's your educational rights, but do you understand what your rights is as a parent?
Yes, and you know what? Actually, I saw that in the message coming up. I saw Kalila Berry, which is my cousin. Thank you for joining. And she said that she sees a lot of parents that they know the laws, but they are not in tune with the IEP and what happens. But that's because you have a lot of advocates now who's here trying to educate the parents on what these laws are. But then, hey, what are we going to do for this child? Yes, of course you have your laws, you have your procedural safeguards, you have things that you are given to you as a parent with a child with a disability. However, once you get past that, now we need to talk about what are we going to do to get your child where we all want them to be.
That's right. And
if I may add a little bit, I do agree with what you just said, sweetheart, because one of the things one of the things that I did hear that was going on a lot in the IEP meeting that I used to run, I've gotten 1 million of these. And what I will always say to a parent is you need to go back and read them over because something could have changed. Just to get them to glance it. And then I will always summarize the first few pages and the hot points because we also got to understand our audience too.
Yes.
So thank you.
Jump in, Rodney.
You know,
Rodney.
Like you guys, Tiffany and Thomas, you guys are doing some amazing work, right? How do we reciprocate that we reach more people to do the same work that you guys are providing? Because what I realize and what I notice is that the system is messed up, right? And when we're dancing around the issues, that there's an equity issue that we're dancing around right now, right? Because what we're not talking about is that the majority of our population, special ed, is Black and Latinos, right? And when we're talking about like when we talk about like parents not understanding, it goes back to like that teacher don't believe, right? So I want to hit on like going back to like teachers' belief and all like what they believe about our kids and our parents. Because at the Thomas point about relationships, if we're not building those relationships with those parents and we feel comfortable around them and we don't see them as they hear and we hear, right? We never gonna get to really the real root of the issue.
Now I want to play devil's advocate. Now, one thing that I don't like is that we get parents, and so I have parents who I know that their child can benefit from medication and not a diagnosis and maybe a 504 plan.
Mm-hmm.
I legally cannot say that for my job, like that your kid needs medication.
Right.
So I have to frame the question in a way of, have you tried other things? Have you tried going to the doctor and talking to the doctor about these issues? Because a lot of times, and I'm going to put myself out there, I have inattention. I never had IEP. I just learned to drink coffee and I learned to have a checklist. But when I got to college and my demands were more challenging, I had to get on medication to help me get through my PhD program. And I think we have to destigmatize getting medication as support for children, because we feel like that's bad. You need insulin for diabetes.
Yes.
You need chemo for cancer. Yes. So you have to understand that there are certain medicines that help children in these populations, and we have to break the stigma of, oh, all medication is bad. No, when you psychoeducate people, people are able to make informed decisions, but they are making informed decisions off lack of information.
And also, stepping out and as a parent, when you're giving your children this medicine, it has to be how it's prescribed.
Yes.
There's no way that you can give him medicine on Monday and decide not to give it to him on Thursday.
Yes.
It doesn't work that way. So if it's supposed to be daily, then that's what he needs. So his or her body could transform correctly and be a part of how he needs to be regular and not everywhere, or whatever the disability may be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I love it, and it's challenging because I'm over on my phone writing down my show notes. The way that we popularize and hype up athletes and celebrities for other great things, we don't take the time to highlight those who suffer from disabilities and they've done great things. Prime example. I was at a church service one time, and this lady came out as a guest speaker. Had no idea who she was. She was the mom of the boy from Empire. So she was Hakeem's mom in real life, and she was sharing her story of how her son was diagnosed with ADHD growing up, and how she realized something was wrong with him educationally. But she said she went home one day. She went home one day after a meeting with the teacher, with the team, got him diagnosed. They put him on the medication. She made her story was she made a pot of spaghetti. Everybody knows in a Black household, a pot of spaghetti is gonna last you for a good 2-3 days. She said she came home from work one day and was so mad and upset about it because he ate the whole pot, not knowing that overeating was one of the side effects of the medication that they put him on for ADHD. So she was sharing how, we popularize celebrities for being athletes and things like that, but there are some celebrities out there that suffer with disabilities that are overcomers and that are still working through this thing, but because of the society that we live in, we don't talk about things like that. But there are some success stories of students in special populations. Even Dr. Wells, you just shared, coffee got you through a coffee and a to-do list. Hell, I think I got ADHD sometimes, to be honest. But
I think I do too.
But you know what, Dr. Green, what you're hitting on is that the point that I'm giving students the tools that they need to apply to be successful.
Yes.
So Dr. Wells just talked about she had her tools, which was that checklist, that coffee. You talked about your tools, right? Like, we have to give kids the tools that they need to be successful. So when they get to that point that they start seeing these behaviors start to rise, they can apply those tools with what we have showed them.
Let me tell you something, Mr. Johnson. My dissertation was on culturally responsive teaching and multicultural teacher education. If I am a teacher and I'm not meeting the needs of my scholars, do you look at the scholars or you look at you? Mm-hmm. Do you say, what do I have to do to reach or engage my students? And our last year teacher of the year, I worked very closely with him, and he did culturally responsive teaching. If you adapt your lesson and include songs, include shows to just have open dialogues, you get them to be engaged, and you get that language that you need out of them. And so I think that when we are having these professional developments for teachers, that we look at how beneficial is this for me to have for my population. So I may need a culturally responsive teacher or instruction practice or pedagogy in my school to reach my students. And I think for our school, we transitioned to PBL, which is project-based learning. You could get more out of a kid from project-based learning than I can by giving them an assessment and say, tell me what you know. I need to build the foundation of it. So I can do a community profile about my area and what the needs are, and I can articulate that, and you can grade me to the standards versus you having me to check this box. Did you learn this? Let me teach it this way. Being very monotone. You have to evaluate the instructional delivery of the content when you are a teacher and make sure that you adapt it in a way that is culturally appropriate.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. I love it. I got a couple more questions I want to try to get out because we're rocking. No, this is the comments that you guys are reading. I'm trying to post all of them, but they're coming in so quick. But this is a much needed conversation. So I thank you guys for joining in with me tonight. So Rodney, I'm gonna throw this one at you, and then somebody can jump behind them. So as the leader in your school with these special populations, what do you see has been the biggest challenge from your lens for this group of scholars virtually? So we're gonna move from the brick and mortar to this online Zoom, Microsoft Teams stuff. From your lens, I mean, I know you get the feedback from the parents. Most of them is I can't do this virtual. I wasn't good in school myself, so this virtual is a lot. But what are you seeing from your lens as the lead in your school of how these scholars are struggling virtually? And then someone can just keep jumping in behind them.
Yeah, right. So what I saw in my building is that the kids was missing that peer interaction. Right? It was like they were connecting with the teachers, right? But they was not connecting with each other. And if you look at many of their IEP goals, they have like some social relationship that they supposed to be accommodating, right? And they're not getting that in a virtual setting. So the biggest challenge that we're noticing is like, oh my God, how do we convert some like social peer-to-peer relationship in a virtual setting? So one thing that we instituted was like, okay, let them do show and tell. Let them do show and tell. Let them like have their peers ask some questions. The other thing was like, okay, we'll let a teacher pop in the breakout room and let them be able to talk to each other. Like we were trying to find workarounds on like how do we still bring that environment from a brick and mortar into a virtual setting, especially with that social emotional piece and that peer-to-peer relationship.
I love that. That was good.
I think for me, just thinking about what was the biggest challenge, I just think the abrupt transition from face-to-face to online for them, it was kind of like a shock, and it's especially for educators, it's not new for us to use technology and the resources that we use to educate the kids, but for the students, now it's placed in your hands that you have to actually know how to change the dynamics of how you turn it in an assignment, how you're communicating with your teacher, the different type of platforms that you have. Now you don't only have one where you just, I'm done with my assignment and I turn it in. Now it's, you need to turn it into Google Classroom, or you need to submit, or you need to place it on Class Kick, or you need to take a picture of, you need to upload it here. So it's just a whole lot of different components to where it's just abrupt and just happened like overnight, and now they have to get to knowing how to do something all over again. And change is different for some of these babies who have these type of learning disabilities. It takes them a minute to grasp the different change that they have.
And if I can add on, I'm going to say one word: Maslow, hierarchy of needs. And let's add in the hierarchy of needs of internet, working Wi-Fi in the house, right? Buffering laptops. But all of that to say is that our students come to school because it's a safe place, right? They get food, they have shelter, they are getting that love, they are getting that attention. Those are the basic needs. We had to go virtual March 15th. They went back into an unsafe environment where there is no love, there is no food, there is no internet, there's no laptop. So they are trying to work on a phone to do a Nearpod lesson on top of logging in, doing a Google Classroom lesson, but you want them to also do an assessment. So where is the grace in this? And I think that's one thing that I have learned through this is that we got to be more graceful. Let's not use these buzzwords for the accolades and for the swag, but let's show what grace is. Let's live how their voice is important. Let's be prideful when they make those positive decisions. If Billy logs in and never says a word, but Billy's been gone for 3 days, make a big deal out of that. That's all I'm saying.
I love it. I love it. No, it's right, because even with the pieces of equity isn't giving every kid a laptop or a Chromebook. Equity isn't giving every kid a hotspot. Quiet as it's kept. You gave my kid a hotspot, but my internet in the house off. So everybody, I got all 3 kids on the hotspot, which is why Johnny can't do his homework, because all 6 kids, which is why the internet service is low, and he can't log in for class because your boyfriend on the hotspot, you on the hotspot, all your other 4 kids on the hotspot as well. Like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Let me get off.
Or I am a sibling of 3 other siblings, and it's 4 of us in the household in a 3-bedroom apartment, and we all have to be on the virtual learning platform. I don't have
nobody has no earphones.
Nobody has headphones. My district didn't have that. Our district has done a phenomenal job of giving a child a Chromebook and a hotspot, but not all districts have those resources to do so. So we're assuming, and this is where we have to take a step back. We are assuming that a parent can afford a laptop. We are assuming that a parent had internet. We are assuming that a parent can assist a child in the virtual learning platform. We are assuming, too, that teachers themselves don't have children that they also have to assist on their own virtual learning platform. But my admin is telling me I have to do these things, but I also have a child that I have to make sure that's online. The same requirement that you want me to do, that I have to do for my other children, I have 2 kids of my own that I'm having to do the same thing for. So I think that a level of grace has to be considered or given in this virtual learning platform, because it's new. Everybody is a first-year teacher. Everybody is a first-year administrator with the pandemic, because we are learning. There is no best practices, because we are learning this new. And I think that we have to understand that we are requiring a lot of people. And even though we may be at home and they think that at home is not working, it's longer work days and it's more work for me. And so I think that grace again has to be extended, but we have to always be mindful. What am I asking a teacher to do and to go above and beyond? But what am I requiring of myself? So that's a lot.
I think that mental sanity is so important during this time. Self-care is well needed. You have to take care of you in this state, because if you don't take care of you, listen.
How can you take care of anyone else?
Right. You have to take care of you. And that's what I preach to my staff. I tell them, like, listen, take care of yourself. Encourage yourself. Build yourself up, because if you don't, this is nobody else going to.
Yeah. And they're just going to hire somebody else to replace your role. So take care of you.
You.
Yes.
Something gonna happen. Something gonna happen to you, and your job's gonna be on the website the very next day. Self-care is important. I'm going through withdrawal right now because my self-care, as you know me, I like to get on a plane and go here to there.
Right.
So I'm a little what you call it? I'm going through withdrawals because I can't that I want, but I'm holding down.
Well, look, Dr. Wells and I gonna teach you some self-care strategies offline, brother. We got you.
Perfect. I need it. Listen, we probably can't answer this, but we're gonna give our insight on it. Just from the panel, what should the percentage of a special population be in a school for it to be manageable? We look at enrollment numbers, we look at re-enrollments and things like that, but realistically, in some instances, especially online, our numbers may have doubled in some of our schools. But what's a good percentage for it to really be manageable? Like, is it should 10%? Like, does research say should 10% of your population?
I would say. 10%? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
I'm gonna say it's 15%. In an ideal setting, it's 15% of your population should be like that special population, that special education. If you were like in an ideal setting, like 60% of those students are going to learn and going to get it. And then you have that 20% who are going to come to school, and no matter what you do, they're going to learn regardless, right? But it's that 50 to 20% that need that special education support.
And I'll also add on to that, bro, real quick, and that's great. Before we get to that percentage, we have to make sure that we got teachers that are certified to deal with these, with the diagnoses and with these classifications. We also have to make sure that we have something that many schools don't have: curriculum, something to teach these kids how to learn. And we also got to make sure that we have the spacing for it. Yep. And I do want to go back and say that it is also important to put the electives teachers involved, because sometimes they don't know.
Yeah.
And so I would say that that percentage should also be based on the availability of services accurately, free, and appropriate within their school or district.
Yeah. And you know, Dr. Green, when you said about the manageable part, you know, it's kind of like a hit and miss. You know, when I say hit and miss, because you can have a caseload that's so small, or you can have a caseload that's so large, depending on the needs of your campus. You know, you have 700 students. If 70 of those students receive some type of services, then that becomes a staffing issue, depending on what type of service that this child is receiving. So it's just up in the air.
Go ahead, Will. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm
going to just chime in.
I'm going to read what the breakdown is supposed to be. The recommended ratio for students of a school counselor in the right role. So school counselors are supposed to support curriculums for social emotional well-being and academics. And sometimes they aren't using that capacity. But for every 250 students, you should have one counselor. For school psychologists, for every 500 to 700 children, you should have one school psychologist, which you really need two. And then the ratio for, and we're just getting into this integrated model, school social workers. So for every 400 children, there should be one school social worker. And we're leaning more on our social workers in our platform, because they help with that communal piece. So maybe a child needs a crisis-based intervention, a CBI worker, a CBI worker in the community, where at home they teach that home environment and they teach those interventions, because in the school there may not be a problem. But when I go home, the environment is triggering for me. So I need to learn how to help that scholar adapt in that setting. So now I have to use a collaborative approach to talk to the social worker, to talk to the CBI worker, to also get them in outside therapy too, because what I do in school is for them academically, but they still need that social emotional support in the school. So we have to look at the wraparound services that we're providing for children, and making sure that there are people in the building with who we need.
I love it.
Good job.
So we gonna bring this thing to a close. But there's somebody watching right now who's a parent, who's a staff person, who's a school leader, who just jumped on the night that needed this conversation, and we're just having. This is me and my friends talking, and y'all joined us. So this is how we was rocking the night. We just having a good time talking about something that needs to be talked about. But just what's some advice you can give for someone watching who may feel like they are like up to here? This virtual is a lot. I'm over it. I'm over just this everything, and they just need to be poured into tonight. So for somebody that's watching, what's some advice you can give them to just push a little bit harder, a little bit further, to best serve our scholars and remember their why they signed up for this work? Because this is really, they say it's a calling to be a teacher, to work with special populations. That's an even greater calling within itself. So yeah, somebody's watching, and anybody can chime in.
I would just say celebrate all small victories. I mean, any type of victory, any type of growth, anything, make it a big deal. Celebrate it, because of course everyone is dealing with their own thing, life, as well as the pandemic, and then you have school, and it's a difference. So anything, I would just say celebrate your small victories. Also know that always praise the growth, praise their growth, because if you had a 20 on one day and you made a 25 on the next day, awesome job. We see that there's some growth. something is going here. And just always that they are all, just understand that all of these babies are gifted. You know, they just unwrap them at different times.
Yeah.
I think I would tell the advices from a perspective of teachers, like remember your why, like remember why you started, remember why you do this. Administrators too, like what is my why? Like why do I come to this job? Am I still being fulfilled? So what is the why? But also for parents, there's no really a book for parenting. You won't always get it right, but you are going to grow with your children and allow them a safe space. And I would tell parents to be a safe space for your child. Like they're going to make mistakes. You were your child's age. And so just have that safe space for them, because a lot of times, and speaking from a confidentiality standpoint, is that kids don't have that. They don't have a safe place to go home. Or they say, I don't think I could tell my parents that. So if I could give any encouragement, is to remember your why, and also just have a developing and growing relationship with your child, because you are your child's first advocate, and they shouldn't start learning at school. They should be learning how to advocate for themselves in the home too.
Right. Awesome.
I think I would say what comes to mind is that John Lewis quote that we didn't choose this time chose us.
Ooh, that's good.
If you think about that and you sit in that space, I think that in those moments that you're feeling alone, I think in those moments you want to get up, I think you should hold on to that quote. I said, because I feel like now that you're making history, you're part of history, you're teaching somebody virtually, right? And some people would love to be in our shoes right now, but kids are learning. They may not be the rate that we want them to learn.
Right.
And they're picking up. So I would tell them, stick it out. To the parents, I would say thank you. Thank you for coming and teach us overnight. Thank you for your support. And to all the amazing educators out there, I would say, job well done.
Yes.
You ran with it, you made this work. We could have not done this work without you. And we love you all for that. And so I would say to all the amazing educators, you guys deserve all loans forgiven.
Yes.
All loans forgiven.
Yes. And so if I could say something real brief, what I would say is it's the counselor in me that's about to come out. The first thing that I would just say that we got to be honest with ourselves. First of all, we don't have all of the answers. No one has all of the answers. And be okay with understanding that we may mess up. But guess what? I put on my Facebook post every day. Today is Wednesday. We have another day to be better than the day before. It's not a cliche. To my educators, you're not going to always have a perfect lesson plan. You're not going to always have perfect attendance. But guess what? Strive to do something different that next day. To our parents, we salute you, because you all are our teachers right now. You guys are taking our phone calls. You guys are making sure they are logged into Zoom. We got to give affirmations to everybody, because there is not one person that should get credit more than the other. To our administrators, including myself, you, Dr. Calvin, you, Rodney, it takes a lot that goes behind the scenes. No one understands what we are going through as pressure as an administrator. So to my scholars, to our parents, to our teachers, extend us some grace as well, because we're trying to keep this boat moving. Stay safe and communicate and be safe. That's all I have, bros. And ladies,
I love it. So I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there, since I'm already saying tonight's show was sponsored by me, because I'm gonna have some sponsors one day when I open my show up. So I'm gonna keep saying it. Tonight's show is gonna be sponsored by me till I get somebody to do it. So I'm gonna throw this out there as well. There will be a part 2 to this, and I'm gonna invite all of my guests back. Because this content was so rich. So if you put questions in the chat, I'm going to go back and rewatch it. Go back and rewatch the show and pull those questions out. So I'm going to extend an invitation right now for all of my guests to come back, because the comments and the content tonight warrants a part 2. Dr. Darian James, if you're watching, I saw you post something earlier. I'm going to add you to the panel. I need a special education coordinator on here as well.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm adding you to the panel as well. So you get ready. Brother, charged in my head, not my heart. I thought she was on a plane somewhere. Yeah, I'm gonna do a part 2 to this. I would love to have you guys come back in maybe a month or two, because I wanted to intentionally do this show at the top of the year, It kind of gave us a break from the quick rush into virtual learning to now we're back. It's probably a new semester for some of you guys, like it is for me, and we're kind of like, okay, Darius say he's in, I got him. We good to go. Just to start the year off in that space of recalibrating and getting re-energized and rejuvenated. One last question before we get out. I'm sorry, I didn't get to ask. Is anybody back in the building as far as students? I know we're in DC. We're still not. About Tiff, you are?
We're not in the building, but we do the hub.
Yeah, the hub. Yeah.
We're in
the building. I'm in the building.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be back in February. So we'll be back in February too.
Okay.
Same here.
Yes. Go ahead, Tim. Okay. So y'all pray for us. We're in the trenches.
Y'all are doing an amazing job.
I toot if I had a hat on tonight, I'm gonna toot my glasses. Everybody on the panel tonight for doing such an amazing job. Thank y'all so much. One last thing before we get out of here, I have to do this like I always do it. What are you currently working on, and how can people get in contact with you? Let's go with
LinkedIn for me. Contact LinkedIn, and of course on Facebook, it's just Tiffany Webb under there. And working right now, I would just say it's just overall, I'm just being the biggest support I can be right now for my babies now and the teachers. So, I'm not doing anything different.
If tell the truth, you told me you had a calling to do something. So okay, that's next show. That's the next show. Go ahead, Wells.
You can find me. My business Instagram is Dr. Wells PhD. I am about to relaunch my website. I'm working on a parent workbook to evaluate the relationship between a parent and a child. And so I want to make sure that no matter what age your child is, that child knows that they're loved and that they are able to come to you and ask you, you should be able to ask your 5-year-old, how do you know mommy or daddy loves you, and be able to work through a workbook to facilitate a healthy relationship. So I'm working on that, a relaunch. You can follow me at Dr. Wells PhD and ask me any questions that you want.
I love it. Rodney.
So you can find me on Facebook. R. Donnell Johnson, Facebook name. I'm working on a couple of things right now. Some things I'm gonna keep quiet. Like Mom said, you never let the left hand know what the right hand doing until it's ready. So just stay tuned. Things are happening.
He gonna tell us on the next show. Thomas, what you? Oh yeah, you always working. You got some Jamaican in your blood, man.
Hey man,
I was looking on something.
So actually, what I'm really am focusing on for 2021 is empowering our men of color to express their emotions. The business is going good, which is Limitless Possibilities. We are a counseling agency that provides mental health services for all walks of life. Non-discriminatory agency that provides appropriate counseling services for us, because if we don't learn how to talk things out, we're going to keep acting things out, and we're going to have those additional additives. But as Dr. Wells is saying, Dr. Green, you are the first, and whoever that is viewing this show tonight would be the first to know that I also have a workbook that is coming out, and it's called When the Pieces of the Puzzle Come Together. Finding that missing piece in our life.
Awesome.
I love it. See, y'all, you never know what you're gonna get on this show, because the people I'm connected to are doing great things. So I'm excited. I'm just excited to have you guys on tonight. Thank you for your intellect. Thank you for your information. Thank you for your content. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your purpose. Thank you for joining me tonight on Dialogues with Doc. I'm forever indebted to each and every one of you. I'm bringing all of you back, so just be ready.
Thank you for having us.
This is great.
Just be ready. Jason Harris, a good brother. I'm gonna find something for you to get on the show and talk about too. So be ready. I'm working on, and what I got coming up is an awesome show next week. Dialogues with Doc. Next Wednesday at 8 p.m. It's February, so it's gonna get interesting. The love month, so. I have.
Make sure you say 7 p.m. Central. You said 8 p.m. So I said make sure you say 7. So all my people
8
here.
8 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. Central. We're gonna have an amazing guest on this. We can talk about it's gonna get interesting. Just tune in. I will see you guys next Wednesday at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. CST Central Standard Time for another amazing edition of Dialogues with Doc. My guests, please hold tight and do not log out for me. Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
All right.